is the FRC Roundtable, coming to you all the way from Minnesota. Your host team 2052 Nightcrawler presents this weekly FRC gathering where FIRST Robotics competition teams take cooperation off the field. Share your knowledge, give and get advice, solve a challenge, or celebrate what makes your team special. 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, the recording hasn't started. So welcome everybody. It's exciting to be back. I missed you all over the summer. Does anybody want to kind of share what they did over the summer before we jump into our topic of the night, which tonight we're going to be talking about how you're going to get back in the swing of things, how you're preparing to have students return, if you're doing training, anything else you're doing to kind of maybe something that you've done to restructure or refocus. That'll be the topic for tonight. But let's start off the summer. How did everybody's summer go? Did anybody do anything interesting with their robotics team?
I can go. Yeah. So for Nomythic, something that we've been focusing on this summer is what we like to call the Nomythic pattern language. And this is actually inspired by one of the topics brought up last year. And so on Nomythic, we met with Nightcrawler and had a really nice meeting talking about sort of design principles. And thank you again for that meeting. That was very helpful. And then let's see. So what Nomythic pattern language is, we sort of break it down into three sections: processes, principles, and practices. And so the idea is that we'll be looking at processes, sort of like what is kickoff, like what do we do in kickoff, prototyping, and design, and sort of writing down a set in place process for that. And then principles, that's sort of going into like what are our key design principles. So for example, we want to make simple robots. And so that's going to be one of our key design concepts. And then robustness, that's another one. And we have a list in there. And then the last section is practices. And that's sort of looking into sort of what have we done in the past? What has worked? What hasn't? And then the goal is that that'll become a design bank with CAD models. So that if we need to make an intake, we can sort of look at that and say, all right, we have these three intake designs. What do we want to take from there? And so this is a sort of long going project for Nomythic, which I'm really excited to get started this year. And we're still finalizing it a bit, but we'll share it on Open Alliance this year when it's finalized.
We went to the GITS this summer. That was a good time, and our young kids, like 8th and 9th graders, the big kids came along to make sure they knew what they're doing, but then just hands off and let the younger ones do it all. And it was really fun to see them like, oh, that's why you have that list, and figure all that stuff out. So that was great. And we built a 6-shooter t-shirt cannon, which was amazing, except for they built everything good except for the drivetrain, so the wheels fell off in the first parade, so we only ran it one parade. But 6-shooter part was awesome.
So Ryan, when you're 6-shooter, did you have 6 barrels that rotated, or did you have sort of a loader and a single barrel?
Yeah, we had 6 barrels that rotated. I like we have a new concept for a loader one, but we came up with it too late in the process. So yeah, it's just 6 rotating with like a single solenoid that it spins to. So
let's see, maybe you can share the video of we seem to work on our t-shirt cannon every single summer, and we have a 6-barrel shooter, and there's 6 chambers in a single barrel, and the mechanism is very tricky and very complicated. But Alexi, maybe you can share a video, but we got it to work at the pep rally last week, so we saw it work once. hopefully it'll last all year.
We're trying to get ready for a football game here in a month, so we'll see if the repairs get made.
So Cambridge did some summer practices for the first time. My assistant coach hosted a weekly drivetrain. So we worked on a swerve drive for the first time. So that was our summer project. And then our FTC program is back up and running. So that was a big undertaking and a battle with the booster since we need all new electronics for that. So financing that, et cetera. But our FTC program is back up and running. And so that's also really great for Cambridge. It took a big hit with COVID. And then we also were back out there with the kids. It was great to see the kids back out at community events this summer. So that's what Cambridge has been up to.
I'll go for Ultraviolet. We also went to the Gitch this summer. It was our first time. And to go there, we built an entirely new robot that was smaller, lighter, had a wrist, so we had a 3-jointed arm. And we won, which was the first time in our team's 16-year history that we've ever won anything. So that's pretty exciting. Aside from that, did lots of outreach events and kind of worked on trainings and recruitment.
So for 3926 this summer, a lot of what we were doing was outreach, prepping for the fall, and fine tuning our swerve drive that we built this spring. I think it was like the most outreach we've done in a single summer because I think we were doing stuff like almost every week. Unfortunately, wore our competition robot into the ground, and it's basically it is terrifyingly inoperable right now in terms of the drive base intake and pneumatics all being just completely destroyed from Woodbury days. But that's because we drove it on hot pavement for like 14 hours straight, which might not have been the best idea. But that means we are going to get to bring a swerve robot to MRI if we can get it ready in time. So that will be fun.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. I'm from 1816, and we haven't really done anything as cool as like winning a Gitch or wearing a robot to the ground, which sounds awesome. Sorry, I'm a driver, and that sounds like a lot of fun. But we have done a lot of summer training. We had a brief stop in our season after state for 2 weeks, and then from there we've been taking rookies and trying to get them up to ready for build season.
I guess I'll go next. For the Northern Minnesota Conference, we had our programming camp this summer. Had a bunch of kids up for a couple days in Bemidji at the university there. We are working on our new STEM center that's going to be at the fairgrounds, and got some money to start working on that. So that's exciting. For the teams, we went to the Gitch as well. Glad to see it back. It was a good event. Then we also went to the Fargo STEM Alliance event, which was also a great event. And our 3134, our girls team, was on the winning alliance. So that was super cool. And then just on a personal robotics thing, I went down for the first time ever and watched our RI down in Indiana. And that was a cool experience.
I'll share that this summer, Nightcrawler did something we've never done before, and we did that with our section. So for those of you who aren't familiar with sections, it's the way that they coordinate who goes to state. They take the top 2 teams from each section, and then everybody else is by your points system. Anyway, we invited all the teams from our section, which was 24 teams, to a picnic, and we had about 8 out of the 24 teams show up. So about a third showed up for a June picnic. And it was a good time. I think it took a little bit for the teams to warm up and talk to each other other teams instead of just talking amongst our own team. But by the end of the night, I think there were some good conversations. We definitely want to try to do that again and try to get all the teams in the area to come and visit with us. That was a lot of fun. Anybody else?
Well, DNA also went to the Gitch this summer, and our students learned why we have a pre-match checklist, because it's really important to put things like batteries in the robot, take the ratchet straps off the arms so you can actually extend it out and score points, other things like that. And then I believe our alliance during the mentor match may have set a new record for penalty points scored in a match, which was our goal. And yet we still won because the other alliance got a red card for knocking over a judge's stand.
We may have been
don't
on
think-
that other alliance.
It sounds like we should not let mentors drive ever.
Drive, operate, be the human player, anything.
Anybody else have any things they want to share for the summer? I did a project last week. I wonder if I can find it here. I did one where it was on my summer bucket list. Is we have been struggling with laptops because our team has to have we can't use school computer equipment because they won't let us put the software on it, which I'm guessing is familiar to everyone else. So we've been struggling with getting our laptops into a cart in a way that makes sense. I got it. And so let me share my screen. I ended up using my entire screen. What's I want to do? Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Where is Slack? There we go. There we go. So this is our new laptop cart that's made out of leftover materials from our week 0 fields from Infinite Recharge, Rapid React. And there's one more in there. I don't remember the other one. But it'll hold all of our laptops and chargers, and then joysticks in the back, Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, everything in the back. So, and it's also official driver station height, so we can use this as our driver station when we're practicing as well. So that was a summer project that has been on my list to do all summer long that I finally ended up knocking off the list. But I ended up afterwards, I started counting and I had to make all the slots for all the laptops. I had to adjust my table saw 32 times to make 256 cuts. It was a long 2 evenings on the table saw. All right. Final comments before we move on to our topic for the tonight.
I saw your
Right.
comments, Scott, and I
So
did pull
before
up. Oh, I pulled up the video of our
Oh, you wanna
teachers
show it?
came in. Yeah, so here we go.
Oh yeah, Ben made a comment too that we also made a CNC cart out of scrap plywood from past week 0 fields. Ben, if you have a photo of that someplace, feel free to share it.
Cool. It might be a little slow. My internet's not great. Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so this is our build captain Kevin doing the testing of the mechanism before he hooked up the pneumatics. It basically uses the similar type of mechanism that you find in a ballpoint pen that you click, where it pushes it down and rotates, and then it comes back up. It's a similar mechanism to that. It's a very finicky system, but they did a good job of rebuilding it this summer, and so far it's working again. Okay, before we move on to the topic for tonight, I'm going to mention this at the start, and I want to mention it again at the end. What we're hoping to do this year is we're hoping to do something different. Rather than Nightcrawler trying to lead the conversation every week, we'd really like to see teams step up and say, I'll be kind of the floor person, I'll be the host tonight. We can still do the recording so we can get them up on YouTube, but be nice if somebody wasn't trying to carry the conversation through the whole night. It was more than just me trying to do that and sort of keeping that conversation going. So we'd love to have other teams hop in and say, you know what, I want to lead a discussion on whatever it might be, how to make the best mascot costume ever. And Leah, that'll be up to you to make sure the conversation keeps going. When there's a lull in the conversation, jump in and ask a question and keep everybody contributing. Also, if you want to give a presentation, I think last year we did a presentation on Onshape, and I feel like we did one other presentation too. Awesome, let's do that too. I think this is a great opportunity for anyone who's doing maybe going to give a presentation at Jumpstart or some other venue and they want a place to practice. This is a safe place where you can practice. So we'd love to have people do that as well. Lexi created a sign up form and it was in the last email that I sent out today at like 2 or 3 o'clock. I sent that email out. It has the link now in there for signing up for a spot. So if you check if you're on the mailing list, and I'll post, if you're not on the mailing list, I'm guessing most of you are, but if you're not, I'll post a link in here at some point during the meeting to sign up for the mailing list. But then it'll be on every meeting going forward. You can say, hey, I want to lead the conversation in October about such and such. We'd really love to see other teams step up, and especially students. We'd love to have students sort of take the lead on this. Mentors do a lot of talking on this call, which is awesome, and I think it's a great. I've loved reconnecting with mentors that I didn't know before, but we really want to make this a place that students can take charge and contribute. So I'm going to say that again at the end of the meeting, but Lexi's posted the Sign Up Genius, and there you go. So I'm very excited to hear what people are doing for getting students back into the swing of things this fall. Specifically, if you're doing something different, why are you changing? What led you to that? Why do you think it'll be better? Hopefully, all of us are trying to be better every year, and so I'm very curious to hear what people are doing to get people back in the swing of things. Anybody want to go first?
I can go first. 3926. Our off season last year was one of our most successful, so we're pretty much sticking. And last year we did mini trials or turtle trials or the test or whatever it was called. Now it's called. It changes its name every year, but mini trials basically last. I think it's September 30th this year is their kickoff. But basically we're planning to do that again. We're starting it on October 17th or 17th, I think, or some date like that. That's just like right after MRI because we're focusing on MRI first because a lot of our team members are also in fall sports. But once MRI is over, we're going to be doing mini trials again because of how successful it was for our team last year. The one thing we're hoping to incorporate this year is that last year we didn't do a CAD for our mini trials robot. And this year, one of our biggest weak points is we lost our main CAD people to the horrors of graduation. Every FRC team's worst nightmare. So we have to train in a bunch of fresh new CAD people, and we're hoping that mini trials is going to be a good chance for them to get experience with CAD, for our new team members to get experience with strategic design, and to basically so all of our rookie members, because it looks like this year we're going to be getting a lot again in the ranges of like 8 to 12, which would be like a third of our team size will be rookies, and that just means that we want them to basically have what's almost an entire season under their belt before kickoff, which would be super cool.
Nightcrawler is also doing mini trials. Is anyone else doing mini trials?
No Mythic is, yeah.
1816 will likely be participating in it as well.
Yeah, I will echo what Ian said. Our students felt so good about many trials at the end of the season last year, and 100% agreed that we wanted to do it again. It really, like Ian said, it really gives those new students a feeling of I've sort of been through the entire process. I've been through a whole season by the time kickoff happens. It also gave us a chance last year. I think I talked about this in a call last year, but it gave us a chance to push some of that learning that normally would happen in the first 1 to 3 weeks of regular kickoff season, push some of that learning into mini trials. That concept of brainstorming and prototyping and all of that stuff, where we can go a lot slower and teach that process and the sense of failure, and push that into the fall so that we can move quicker and sort of set some harder design constraints in the spring. And that way we don't, the students get the sense of you can do anything you want in the fall, and we give them that sense of try all these crazy wacky ideas and which take longer, and in even when the captains and the mentors kind of know that's not a path of success, we let them do that, we let them experience all that in the fall, and then when January comes and we do the real kickoff, we can sort of shortcut all that stuff and say, okay, when we build the competition robot for the real season, these are sort of our constraints that we want to fit within.
Yeah,
So-
and one of the other things I want to add in on mini trials that I feel like a lot of time gets glossed over when people talk about how good it is I think a lot of concerns teams, who are thinking about doing it, and was definitely 3926's concern as well, was that like, wait, are we adding another build season, to the already build season? They're worried it's going to be, super crazy, super stressful, a lot more time spent in the lab. 3926 spent less time in the lab in the fall in 2022 than we did the previous year. I don't know if anyone has an image. I might have an image I can pull up, but I think it's a really low key competition in which like people just kind of bring, their prototypes on the robot. Like 3926's robot, which we won as part of the Fourth Alliance last year. It was literally just a stick on 2 pieces of 8020 that had slides attached to it. It was like the most jank thing ever that was put together in like a couple hours because our original idea did not pan out or work, and it was the day before test and we had to come with something. But I think that in terms of like how much effort you have to put in, like I think it's really only as much as like teams want to, like, because it's really, even if it's just like a kit base with one actuator, that's probably going to be more than enough to, be successful and have a really good learning experience.
Yeah, and then for us on Nightcrawler, as a student, it helped a lot with recruitment to be like, it is week 1 and you are getting your hands into a robot. Like, yes, we're gonna do training, but it's worked into this process. And I think there's a lot of kids who are like, I want to join a robotics team, like get my hands in the robot, and I don't want to wait till January. So I think recruitment wise, it worked really well for us. This year, we're having our info night basically a week before the mini trials kickoff. So it's like really as soon as you join the team, like you're going to be working on robots, which is really appealing for a lot of people.
Anyone else have any things they want to share about planning for getting students back in, things they're concerned about or things they're changing?
Yeah. So 2129 is kind of swapping the way they were doing trainings around a little bit. It used to be very linear. Everybody went through a set of trainings. We still have a few days of that where it's like the very basics that everybody should have on the team. Obviously safety. We have DEI training this year that we're doing with everybody. But then after that, we're transitioning into a vote with your feet style training, kind of like Jumpstart. We were inspired by the Minibar conference too. And the idea with that is that you have experienced people host trainings. They prepare their own materials. They prepare slideshows, that kind of thing. And then we have one more room this year, so we have 2 rooms total to do trainings with, and so people can kind of go where they want to and learn what they want to, and so they can kind of find their own path before you even get to an off-season competition, so they kind of know what role they want to go into. We're also working on, well, we lost our biggest sponsor, Optum, who's giving us $10,000. So we need to really step up fundraising because right now we're our budget's tight. So we may try and go to mini trials, but we're a little worried about team size. Right now we only have 15 people. We'll see how recruitment goes on Friday, but the recruitment we've done so far has been completely unsuccessful. So we'll see how that pans out. We're already tied pretty tight.
Mason, I will say something about mini trials is a lot of times it works better with smaller teams. Like I know a lot of teams that are 30 plus in size will bring like 2 teams. Like I think 3100 did that last year. No Mythic did that last. Nightcrawler brought 2 teams, but Nightcrawler is like really big. So I think you could probably get by with 15 students, so that there's probably, a lot of other important roboticsy stuff in the fall.
Yeah, certainly. We'll look into it as well. I mean, right now we have a really strong core team. We just need to find some younger students. Right now are super junior heavy, so that's a big challenge for us.
And speaking about team size for mini trials, for No Mythic, we're going to one team this year and doing very few people, primarily just focusing on new team members. So that is a change for this year. So when talking about mini trial size, we're definitely going on the small end this year, and then focusing on a sort of more laid out training process for the rest of the team. That's more returning.
Mason, I have a question about your recruiting. You said that what you've tried hasn't been successful. Are you looking at doing something different or doing
Yeah.
new things to try to pull together more students?
So essentially, the story is that our school has completely screwed us over again. So previously, every year at Southwest High School, we had like a kind of like a club day, which was the second Friday, although they called it First Friday. This year, in an attempt to, I don't know, improve things, they shifted that to the 5th Friday of school, which is the Friday before MRI. So far too late for us to actually get new people on board. We really need to start the process now. So we went, presented at an open house, the open house, and we got, I believe, 3 freshmen to go through like the Google form, interest form process. So we'll talk to them hopefully tomorrow night. We'll see how that goes. But then our other thing that we've tried was recruiting during lunch because that was really the only other option that we saw. And so kind of going around, well, first having robots up, like our lunchroom's kind of small, but we have a stage. So we had our robots up there. Nobody's coming up to us. So we went around and talked to people, kind of gauged the interest. There was none. And now the school has yet again amazed us with their planning and has brought the second Friday back. So we'll give that a go and hope for the best. So that's what we've been trying with recruitment. It's just hard to find anybody interested, and our school is shrinking really rapidly. So it's really tough.
Yeah, recruitment is something 3926 is like always thinking about because our school population is, I think, 240 total, which means to be sustainable, we have to have like 10% or higher of the school in robotics at any given time. Something that this is something new we're doing this year. It was inspired by a conversation, I think, with No Mythics captain Liam. So Rasmus might be able to talk about more as something where we try to make sure everybody in the school is exposed to the idea of what the emperors are in at least 3 different ways. That means like making announcements at our Monday morning full school meetings, putting up posters, we try to have a conversation with every single freshman as to why they should join robotics. That usually doesn't happen, but we talk to quite a few of them. Then we show off our robot at the club fair, and so by having 4-ish different options for them to kind of hear and be exposed to, here's what the team is, here's what we do. We hopefully, that means more people are seeing, oh, this is something that we should try and kind of like make sure that there's nobody who hasn't not heard about it. And then the other thing we're trying this year, I'm not sure how successful it's going to be, and we'll see, is we're trying to advertise our team more as being the Emperors rather than a robotics club, because within our school we're kind of seen as the robotics team, robotics club, and it was a conversation actually that happened in the Twin Cities Team Captains Network server, but we thought a lot of times saying that it's a robotics club or team kind of can get a different group of people than just the full breadth of people who might be interested in robotics, because obviously being on a first team is obviously more than just building or programming a robot. And one thing we're thinking about a lot, we've been thinking about a lot recently, is equity in recruiting and like how we can show what first is to a wide breadth of people rather than the traditional stereotypes of who does robotics or who does not do robotics. And so we'll see how that turns out, although I think it also might be causing a branding issue where people are like, what is the Emperors, what am I joining? Although we're trying to show the robot in photos, so like hopefully people know that it is the first team. But we kind of are emphasizing more of like the values of our team and like that we're learning CAD, building, coding, electronics, business, outreach, service, all of those things.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot to mention a few more things kind of similar to what Ian was talking about. First off, we've gone full in on posters and materials that we can kind of put up around the school to get people exposed. But the other things we've been doing with the equity, especially, is we started a Girls in the Shop program. So we got a grant for I think $1,125, which we're using to try and get girls into the shop outside of just robotics. So they're building birdhouses, a little bit of CAD, I believe soldering. I'm not entirely keyed on what they're doing, but it's like small projects every week for an hour on Monday or an hour and a half after school. And so we're trying to get people who maybe otherwise wouldn't have seen themselves as somebody who wanted to join robotics to at least get into the shop and kind of see more what it's about. As well as the other strategy that we're trying to get more people is we've been talking to freshman teachers a lot, and we're trying to put together either like a video or a slideshow to try and send to the freshman teachers, and they'll share it with them, their classes, especially science teachers. We have a few connections with our school, so we're working on that. But definitely the equity with recruiting is something that we're trying to focus on.
So Cambridge ISANI has had some challenges in recruiting. We definitely have some obstacles on the school platform. But we have always found that when we have FTC, that is really where we get most of our pull from. So us starting FTC back is the long game. Obviously, our 7th and 8th graders will not be on the team, but their season and our FRC preseason overlap. And the captains for the FRC are the captains' mentors for the FTC team. So I think because we overlap them on purpose, and we have in the past, that gets them excited. And then they also go to our local, we do one local competition, and FTC goes with the high school team for that competition. Once you get them to an FRC competition, they're hooked. By the time we get to freshman year, we find recruiting at that freshman bracket is a challenge. Freshmen either are overwhelmed because they're starting high school. Our enrollment is down in Cambridge. Many are going to charter schools, homeschool, private schools, etc. So the school is actively recruiting just for student enrollment. So we find that that's also affecting the team a little bit. Last year, we were 50% rookies due to graduation. This year, we anticipate another pull in because the awards are out there. The team won 2 awards last year. So the advertising's good in Cambridge. We have more girls on the team than we've ever had. And so we like to use a lot of those young ladies in our photos too, when we social media and whatnot to encourage other young ladies to join. But recruitment is going to be, I think, a challenge for us for the next 2 years. So we're hoping FTC fills that gap. It has for us in the past. Our team is the smallest it's ever been. It's at 13 students.
Carol, have you ever had any homeschool students or I guess charter school students on your team?
Yes, so we can do homeschool. That's not an issue at all, but our charter schools do not have a working relationship for the sports or athletics at Cambridge. And then anybody who's doing online school like K-12, those are technically schools. So because they're enrolled in other schools, they can't participate on the school platform. So the district platform. Cambridge Christian is trying to work out an agreement or an arrangement to participate in the athletics program, but that's only one of the charter schools. And it's so far, they've been doing that for 3 years. We still haven't been able to get that to work. So it is something that should happen because we bus them. So there should be a way for it to work, but that's where we're at.
We have for sure one homeschool student that'll be on the team this year. When I joined the team, this will be my 9th year. Our build captain for the first 2 years I was on the team was a homeschooled student, and she used robotics as part of her curriculum for part of her homeschooling curriculum. So that worked out really well.
Yeah, I've been with the team 10 years now.
10 years.
We've had homeschoolers every year. I think this might be the first year. Oh, no, I still have a homeschooler. Yep. So yeah, we have homeschoolers, which are great because between that and the Cub Scouts, those kids recruit in their homeschool groups and their Cub Scout groups and their Boy Scout groups. So it's nice. I guess by the time they're in FRC, they're in Boy Scouts and Eagle Scout. So that's really helpful. So we can't ever do too long of a practice on Monday because it's scout night. So, and then Wednesday for church. So but it's a slow growth, but that's okay because we're working on some coaching changes and trying to get teachers to actually participate. We have 0 teacher. Well, we have 1 teacher on our coaching crew, but the rest of the school does not. They love robotics, but nobody wants to help grow the team as far as, being there, I think, because they've been with kids all day. So we have some challenges in growth, but I think a slow growth is okay and it's healthy. In the next 2 years, we should grow double in our size.
Yeah, and I do want to mention here, and it sounds like this is something that you've been trying, but on Nomythic, because we're a joint team between Avalon and Great River School, and that's really worked out for us. Because over these past few years at Avalon, we have had issues with not a whole lot of teacher involvement, but it's worked out because Great River has been able to be our shop, and so having those two schools has really helped us out with keeping those numbers higher and keeping that sort of teacher support from schools. So, yeah.
Yeah, and actually North Branch and Chisago City, they have joint school as well. So we're so rural and the school districts are so big. Cambridge and Forest Lake are the 2 largest school districts, second to Anoka Hennepin. And so those giant school districts, and they're so rural, I think being so spread out makes it a challenge for that team partnership, where North Branch and Chisago are only 7 or 8 minutes apart from each other, so it works out really well for them. But Cambridge is a good sized district. It's just that COVID was a killer. And I mean, the team cut in half the minute COVID hit. No recruitment for seniors. So now my junior levels, I have 0 seniors, I think, next year, and all juniors. And that makes sense based on where we're at. So, but my freshmen last year, half a class of freshmen buddied up with upperclassmen. They were all split up in different departments. And they were very active. They were more active than our alum and our veteran team members over the summer. We had so much involvement with freshmen over the summer. It was really encouraging.
Lexi, we've done something different in terms of recruiting girls. Would you like to share what you and some of the other leaders did for Nightcrawler?
Yeah, so at Irondale, we have a display case kind of in the front of the school. Marching band has one as well. In there, we keep a couple robots, but we also have a TV in there. Normally, it plays match videos, but this year, what we decided to do was get a testimonial from all of the girls currently on the team and a bunch of our alum, both those who have come back as mentors and those who have not, and just ask like, hey, how has robotics, what was your robotics experience like? What was being on Nightcrawler? How did it benefit you? What's the story you have? And we put all of those together, and we called it Women of Nightcrawler, and that's, I think, running pretty much 24/7 in our display case. And we'll also be putting like individual slides from that up on social media just to kind of show that we've generally had pretty good recruitment, but our girls recruitment has been lower. So that's something that we've been working on, and just showing like, hey, this isn't necessarily a boys club. Like, there's a lot of really great culture in First, and we work to combat a lot of those stereotypes. So yeah, that's one way we've been highlighting it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has the ability to stick a TV on a wall someplace that students can walk by and see, but if you do, I found a fantastic Raspberry Pi image that's basically a kiosk mode, and it'll play MP4 videos off of a thumb drive just over and over and over on a loop. And we're running it on a $5 Raspberry Pi Zero. So if anyone has a place where they can stick a TV and just a little Raspberry Pi Zero, I mean, literally it's this big, in a thumb drive. The thumb drive is almost as big as the Pi. You just stick that behind the TV and just let it run nonstop, and it'll play videos forever. We put ours on a timer, so it turns everything on at 7 a.m. and then it turns it off at 10 p.m. or 9 p.m. or something like that. I will see if I can figure out the video option so I can get that put in the chat here, Ryan. But it's been fantastic for us. I mean, we're very, very, very fortunate that 2 principals ago, they saw the value of Nightcrawler having a display case, because they built a brand new auditorium. And so the drama department and marching band got new display cases. So they gave us one of their old display cases that we could stick a robot in. And then we spent a lot of time and a fair bit of money to put up shelving and display our trophies and put robots in there and paint it nice and pretty and white and get stuff to make it look nice. And now anybody that goes to Irondale, you walk through the main hallway, you know that there's a robotics team. It's been something that we've been working on since I've been on the team. When I joined the team, I would talk to students and they'd say, wait, Irondale has a robotics team? And now there almost isn't anyone in Irondale that doesn't know that there's a robotics team. So it's been a decade of work, but if you have the ability, if you have a place that you can stick it, this TV thing is it really is a great thing. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, we saw your display. It's pretty fantastic. And it is true that people in Cambridge know about your team because I was recruiting at the middle school and a parent came up and told me that they have students that went to Irondale and Irondale has a great robotics team. So all the way out in the middle of Cambridge, people are talking about Irondale's robotics team. So it's pretty great.
I love this story. You know, I meet people in my community and because I live not a mile from the school and I meet people that have little kids and they said, "Oh, you're a robotics coach." Yeah, my kid does wrestling at Irondale, and every time we go to wrestling, we have to walk down the hallway so they can watch one of the robot videos before they go to wrestling. And so it's really great to hear that type of thing where kids that are people that are there for basketball or for anything else, volleyball, whatever it might be, they're stopping and looking at the robot videos. I mean, it's one thing to just walk by and say, "Oh, look, a robot," but then when there's the video and you can watch a match play or you can watch a reveal video, I think we have like a 15-minute loop because we went all the way back to Stronghold. And so we put the reveal video and a match video, a reveal video and a match video. And now, as Lexi said, we've done a 7-minute commercial where it's the women of Nightcrawler and then like a 20 to 30-second clip of a robot back to 2016, but it's only 20 seconds. And then one of the ladies of Nightcrawler and then a 20-second robot video. And that's on a 7-minute loop. So if you have the option to throw up an old TV, go to Goodwill, spend $20. You can put a TV anywhere. It really has done a great job for recruiting.
The other thing I would say for our students who are here is find out who your student council people are and like get to know them. And so we bring our t-shirt cannon to like the homecoming pep fest and the freshman day pep fests and just any opportunity that we have within the school to kind of like expose ourselves. And even if I don't get to be up on the mic and like say, "Hey, join robotics," but like our t-shirt cannon is there and it looks cool and people like that. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can use our peers as well to kind of build that school community and utilize those resources. Because I don't know, the experience that I've had has been a lot of like, oh, if I know somebody who's on student council or if I know somebody who's on basketball, we all want people to join our clubs, but we can work together as well. And that's something that's usually totally free.
One thing that we started to do differently this spring and summer is when we would go to events, we were really good at promoting that, hey, we build robots. So we bring our robots, we show off our robots, we would do all the stuff with the robots, completely ignoring every other aspect of the team. So I pushed the students. So now when we go places, we bring all of our t-shirts because we design a different t-shirt every year. So we brought those along to show, hey, we need people that do graphic design. We had a computer set up with the CAD part of it. We had another monitor set up that was showing our social media parts of the team. They had our business binder there so they could talk to business teams. And our captain this year is in the business classes at our school, and he has already talked to the teacher there, and she is going to let him do a presentation the first week of classes, which was last week, on the robotics team and how we are a business. We have to come up with a budget. We have to write grants. We have to do all this other stuff to kind of say, hey, you guys are learning this stuff in class. Here is a practical application of what you're learning that you can do and will look great on college applications and everything else. So we are expanding out how we put the team out there. It's not always just about the robot anymore. We're showing all of the other aspects of the team. And that pushed me to put a display together of, hey, we need mentors too. Not just students. We need mentors to come in and replace the ones that we're losing. So we've really tried to refocus our display and the message that we're putting out whenever we're out in public. And it's not just always now about the robot, which brings people in, but it will also show them the other aspects of the team as well.
And for No Mythic, because I really agree. I really love um like showing off the sort of non necessarily robot building part of robotics, and that's something that No Mythic has been trying over these past few years. Um, and for example, for our operations sub team, we had an average of 2 to 3 people, and then this last year I think we had 6 people, and so that was very helpful for um, like all the sort of operation stuff. Um, and I think another thing that has sort of helped that, at least for Nomothic, is that we have sort of open house nights. Um, and so people will often come to robotics being like, oh, I want to build a robot. And then they'll sort of see the operations sort of section and they'll be like, wow, this is super cool. Um, and so that's one of the parts that I really love.
I had a question about that. How do you and other teams, how do you find people who are interested in the non-technical aspects? Our team struggled with this for a long time. Right now we have nobody doing non-technical anything. So it's kind of just been shifting off to people who would rather be doing robot stuff. But is it, if it's like a team branding thing or recruitment, how do you find people who are interested in business and marketing, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so on Nomothic, and Ian mentioned this earlier, um, and it's sort of when we talk about robotics, we really say no mythic, and we really, when talking about the skills you learn, we say you can learn like how to build a robot, like CAD, programming, all that. But then we put a huge emphasis on that sort of business operations type side of thing. And then we also reach out directly to students. And if we see someone that's like interested in fundraising or some other sort of thing like that, we reach out to them directly and we say, hey, that's super cool that you're interested in that. Would you be interested in joining robotics and doing it there? And so that's one of the strategies that we use.
And where do you find these students that say they're interested in fundraising? Or, I mean, where do you find that information out? Is it word of mouth from students, or are you finding that out at an open house or a classroom setting?
Something that, or I'll let Rasmus go first.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say that at least for Avalon from No Mythic, because that's where I go to school, we have advisories of about 20 people. And so for everyone on No Mythic, we really encourage people to talk to people around them, and sort of get to know people. So it's really the students on the team reaching out, like figuring out what the interests of people are. And then if somebody is interested in the sort of more technical side, that's great. But it's also then that sort of non-technical side that we also look out for. And it's really the students that do that.
Yeah, a lot of it is, I think, just a, it's a lot of word of mouth, which is especially more difficult in larger schools, because I know for us last year, the way we got, because we went from having one person on our operations sub team to having like a full regularly sized operations sub team last year, and the way we recruited for that was in our goal of trying to talk to as many people who are new to the school as possible about joining robotics. A lot of times, the rejection you're going to get is, well, I don't like building robots, right? And so generally, beyond that, we ask these people, what do you like to do? And there's usually and almost always something that is done on a robotics team that people, do like to do, just because of how many things, like if they like, doing art, it's graphic design, if they're thinking about, wanting to do service, right? There's all of the outreach things, and you'll generally, find people who are interested in doing those things alongside the process. If they like public speaking, there's, presenting for award submissions. And so that kind of has helped us find, like, for example, this year, one of my friends who I've been trying to get him to join the robotics team, for the past 3 years, he's more into theater and crew, but he's really good at graphic design. And so finally this year we got him to say, you know, I'll come once a week as a graphic designer, and I might not be, there in like a full capacity, but I'm, being basically a subject matter expert where he's really good at one specific thing and is able to contribute to the team that way.
Nightcrawler was sort of forced into a different position last year. We had when I joined the team, we had a relatively large public relations / media team, and they were sort of a club onto their own. They worked in a completely separate space. A lot of the kids that were on the build and programming team didn't really know the kids that were on the media public relations team, and it really didn't feel good that there was so much isolation. And over the years, it got to the point where last year we only had one person who was going to be dedicated to media, and that forced our hand into saying, "Well, that can't be a sub team." So we sat back and we thought about it, and we thought, you know what? There's no reason why if you write code, you can't also do review video, or you can't also make social media posts, or the same thing with build, right? There's no reason why if you don't have something else to do, you can't go work on something else if you're interested. And so we created this model. We used to have sub teams. Sub team was what you run. You were a programmer, and that was it. And last year we came up with this model we call task forces. And task forces are sort of temporary places you can go and do work that's different from your sub team. So we've started to refine this a little bit, and I think we mostly refer to your sub team as kind of your homeroom, and your task force is a project you can go work on, and then you come back to your homeroom. And so media became a task force, and as a result of that, um, we have now got students who've said, I think that's what I want to do full time. I don't want to write code, or I don't want to build robots. Instead, I want to work on the website or social media, or I want to do video production. And so by opening it up to all students, that actually helped us take students that were sort of okay at code or okay at build and find their passion into a non-technical role, and then come in and start working for the team on that, and really found their niche and found where they excel and can help out the team the most. So this year we're going to keep our task force model, but we are going to have some students that are 100% dedicated to the non-technical part of the team because they just don't want to write code. They don't want to be in those other two sub teams. So it's been interesting that we struggle, like you're saying, of trying to find business kids that just care about the business side of the team, and tried to recruit that. And when we, instead of trying to recruit that, we looked internally and said, hey, if you want to work on social media posts and come up with funny stuff to post online, if you don't have anything else to do, you're welcome to go kind of jump the fence. And it was some of our best stuff. I think we had so much great participation in that. Our social media platform was rocking all year last year with content. It was great to see people that build the robot also be able to grab a camera and go down and take photos during the year and do media thing if they've went through the training for the media and photography stuff. So that could be an option too. If you're stuck trying to recruit for those roles, maybe stop trying to recruit and let anybody on the team do it as long as they don't have something else going on.
Yeah, I had a follow-up question to that. Obviously, Nightcrawler is a much bigger team than Ultraviolet, and you guys have sub teams. What do you do when you have too many people on one sub team? We have the issue of we get all the new people and they're all like, I just want to build the robot. And I don't really want to program or CAD it. I just want to build it, and that leads to people that kind of sit around most of the season. And we try to encourage them to try some new skills, try these things. But what does your team or other teams do about that?
Lexi, you want to take that?
Yeah. So first off, on the CAD thing, I think something that we implemented for us is CAD is a task force, but it is also part of the design process very heavily for us. So if you're on build and you're going to build something, you're going to CAD it. Like that's especially during build season when we are thinking about that optimization that's was really important to us. But yeah, on the other side, um, yeah, encourage students. Absolutely, that is awesome. Um, but I think for us, a lot of it is first off, students talk to their friends who they know might have interests, but also going to those teachers specifically and being like, hey, you're the computer science teacher. You know, you have some kids who are interested in programming. Like, let's see, you know, what they have going on and if they can join that particular sub team. Um, or, yeah, I mean, programming in your case, but media as well with the business stuff. That's my thoughts on that. I don't know if you have other ones, Scott.
Well, I have some tips on recruiting programmers or convincing your build students to become programmers instead. First thing is, most of the time, personally, I think your technician should be a programmer. They're the ones that are verifying your auto is set up properly, all of those things. And so, if you want to guarantee somebody a spot on the field, if you don't make the drive team, being the technician is a spot on the drive team. And so, you don't have to run your team that way, but personally, our technician is the person that makes sure that the robot gets on the field in the right spot with their GAN elements in the right positions, and then go back and they select the right autonomous routine that's going to run for that thing. They're very important. Autonomous is a big part of our strategy to do well at competition, and we almost always make our technician the person who knows the most about autos to make sure autos are set up properly. So it's practically a guaranteed spot on the field. The other thing I'll say about programming is that I don't know how you guys all run your teams, but on Nightcrawler, the person who gets to drive the robot the most is the person who's driving it back to the starting line after auto. And so if you want the most practice of any other person on the team, the person who's writing the code and testing the code is probably going to have the most hands on the joystick more than anyone else. And so if they're super interested in being the primary driver, the secondary driver, having somebody who's got hands on the robot more than anyone else gives them a really good chance of testing as the best driver. So those are two kind of easy things to say. Now that may turn out not to be true for your team or for that individual person. But it could be a big motivator for someone to say, wow, you know, nobody else wants to write code. I'm going to learn to write code and I'm going to do that because it's a way for me to be a leader and gives me an advantage over everyone else for these other things that I'm interested in.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
This might be changing a little bit, but does anyone have plans for the new kind of kit with instructions bot for the season? Like, I'm kind of hoping some of my kids that are a little intimidated to jump in full on build or something, they get, like, my new children, they'll put together that robot so then they have something to do and they can kind of struggle and make mistakes on that. And then some of the people that are on those side or not true build teams can get in there and help them and get their hands dirty in a way. I'm hoping it is a good opportunity. I'm just curious what other people are thinking about that extra little robot that's can play the game but what.
I know. I can't directly speak to this, but I don't see anybody here from Millerbots, Washburn. They're next to us. They tried having like two teams. So they had a freshman team and then like an experienced team. And their freshman team built in every bot last year. And in some ways that was really good in that it got everybody that was new to the team experience. But in other ways it completely separated their team. It split it in half and nobody knew each other. And so when it got to the time where the seniors graduated, the freshmen felt like they didn't have any skills that were passed down because there was no connection between seniors and freshmen. So that was kind of their experience. We don't have the issue of too many people. We have the issue of too few. So, you know, your mileage may vary.
When we were bigger, we had two teams also, our Fab 1 crew and our Fab 2. Most of our varsity or, you know, upperclassmen were on that Fab 1. That was our comp bot. And we tweaked that program a couple of times because the second robot wasn't always the competition robot. And then we built it as the competition robot. And then they build in the same room, they build together, so they work together, but that wasn't how it started. And we found that that division was there. they were hiding parts on each other, like bearings and stuff, like we need hex bearings. We're gonna steal them from that side. So I find that division does happen, but once we put them together in the same room, and then it did not guarantee that the one robot or the other robot would make the field. The best robot makes the field. They all design process together. They all do all that work together, and then they build the same robot, but um and the best one wins basically. So we haven't had two fab groups though in a couple of years just because of our size, but we've had to run because we've had 30 plus kids on Cambridge for the most part. And like you were saying, most kids want to build. Cambridge doesn't have any tech classes. We have no programming, no coding, no anything like that. So we struggle in that part, but we have excellent shop and excellent welding and excellent fabrication classes at school. So we are heavy in that department. And so that's where we find the same challenges you do, where too many kids in one department, not enough in another.
So 3926 this year is considering putting and it depends on what the starter bot is, and it also depends a lot about how mini trials goes for us, but because of our really inexperienced design team with not much in context robot CAD experience, I think that we are considering the possibility of putting the starter bot on Swerve, potentially making a few upgrades to it, depending on how much time we have, how much design we have, and just drive practicing the heck out of it. Because depending on what the game is and what that starter bot can do, that may be a very good opportunity for us to be more competitive than we could be designing our own robot. I think a lot of it's going to come down to how well mini trials goes for us, especially because if we can get a lot of that in context experience done with mini trials, then hopefully our team will be in a better spot. But our team does like building simple regardless. Like this year we did obviously the low goal robot that was just really fast, and we're going to try and continue that design philosophy next year. So if a starter bot aligns with that, we might go with that.
A fairly long conversation with Jeremiah Miller, who's the coach for the Ashby team. He's been on here a bunch, so anyone who's a regular knows who Jeremiah is. And we were talking specifically about this topic, and I think where we landed on this was the starter bot could be a great way for teams to be able to get something done quick that can do something, and then you can design around that to do the other thing. I think if I remember right, the starter bot is basically guaranteed to be able to do at least part or half of the program, and ideally leave you space to design something you're on your own to do the other part. So maybe that's the end game, maybe it's score low versus score high. I don't know what it's going to be yet or not, but Jeremiah finds himself in this position where they're a low resource team, both in mentors and experience, but also in funds. And the idea that you can basically get instructions and a blueprint on how to get halfway in a way that is sort of guaranteed to work quickly. So maybe in 2 to 3 or 4 weeks, you can get a bot built that'll do half the game, and then work on trying to build the next component or upgrade that component. And if you don't get it done, no problem. You can still go do a good job of competing. I hope that solves the problem that several teams. Well, last year was a hard challenge because it was so unique, and we didn't have a lot of examples to work from to say, oh, here's how you would build a robot that can place a cone on a pipe 4 feet away. But a lot of teams struggle with, they didn't get anything working by that week 1, week 2, week 3 competition because it was just so hard. And I think this new bot idea is going to be we can very quickly get something that we know that'll make us at least competitive at a competition, and then that gives us more time to work out kind of to do everything instead of doing nothing. So I'm optimistic that this will raise the bar for everyone, so that everybody can get on the field and get a robot that's competitive, that can contribute.
Yeah, our boys team did the every bot basically the last couple of years, just because they're such a young group. And our girls team kind of did their own thing. But I think this year I plan on having at least one of the teams opt out of that voucher and do the kit bot or whatever you want to call it. At the very least, it's a driver's practice. You got something that can play the game, and kids can be driving it around probably pretty quick. So that's kind of our strategy going into this season with that new option available to us.
Personally, I'm really hoping to see very few just direct kit bots on the competition field. I know I'd very much encourage teams to try and, build something that's slightly beyond their capabilities and fail, rather than, kind of go back and build a kit. It's kind of my take, because in 2022 our team went way too far. We tried doing every element of the game, failed at all of them, and learned more than we could have ever with building any kind of robot, that did less. Um, I mean, we got to Worlds too by mostly luck, but uh, it was really a learning experience by failing um, through the entire year. So I'm hoping that there's going to be some teams kind of like this year where they took the Everybot and they made alterations to make it better. But I still think that building something from scratch is that gets even more of the design process into students, starting from just the idea phase. So I'd like to see the kitbot become more of like a robot in 3 days kind of thing, where you're looking at that and you're like, okay, that's good. Now how are we going to change that and make it better? So we'll see where it goes, but definitely hope to not see a lot of stock kitbots.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think we, will see a bunch of stock kit bots. I know that it might be a 2013 robot in 3 days situation, which I'm also hoping we can't see it. And I should clarify that 3926 would most likely be building something inspired by the kit bot, not necessarily the kit bot if we ended up going down that route. Although there's plenty of team discussions before we decide on whether or not we end up doing that. And I'm not going to speak for the team, necessarily 100% on what we plan to do. But I think that, as an inspiration, it might be, good as a base. And what I'm hoping happens with it is they said in the blog post that they're planning on making it very modular. So like that there's a lot of room to add other things on top of it. And modify it. So like, for example, if there's like an end game challenge, it might not be able to do that. And hopefully the team would be able to spend a lot of its resources, focusing on that in 2022, because, we spent a lot of time on our shooter and turret. We didn't end up having time to build our climbing mechanism that we planned out. And so that really, I think that hurt our team's competitiveness a lot. And so I think there's definitely a balance between how far we want to innovate versus how far, we want to build simple. And, one of the things we've thought about a lot is, for example, mini trials the time for us to go and, shoot for the moon. Like this year, we tried to build a level 3 elevator for mini trials. If anybody was at mini trials, you probably would have noticed that did not quite work out. By the end of the event, it was a logo robot. But in that process, we learned a lot about how, elevators worked. And I don't think it would have been the same if we, from the start said, oh, we're just going to do a logo robot that's going to be really simple. Instead, we, did that failure. Although I'm also glad we didn't necessarily do it in season, because in season, when you shoot for the moon, it doesn't work out and you end up not getting picked. It can kind of, sting a bit.
Yeah, and this is where I really because I guess for some context here, last year, Nomothic went to Duluth, and we were designing this whole elaborate arm system. And 2 weeks from competition, we were like, shoot, we don't have it even built yet. Um, and so we went to a very sort of simple hoop mechanism that would just pick up the cubes and bring to the logo. And the sort of reaction from the team was that we all really enjoyed that. We didn't get what we want, like what our end goal was, but it was a lot of fun to just have a little robot going around the field. And so this is where, Mason, I really agree with you about like really shooting high, but then also having that backup plan of like maybe you don't get everything you want, but you can still have a robot that's competitive. Um, and so that's my experience from last year, and I think that was a lot of fun.
One of the things that we've decided that we're going to do this fall is, as the students come in, we've been fortunate enough to get a couple of grants that we have kind of stockpiled on Swerve Drive modules, and we have enough to build what we're going to call a prototype bot that is going to be designed so that come build season we can add manipulators, climb mechanisms, whatever, easily on top of it, so that we can test things on an actual robot and be able to swap things in and out easily. The top of it may be just built out of plywood to be able to screw things down onto it. But we're going to build it from scratch this fall, working with our students, so that the new incoming students learn how to build a Swerve module, learn how to wire up a PDH, learn how to add your radio in, and then program it out. And that's going to be something that our last year's freshmen, this year's freshmen, the freshmen and sophomores are going to be working on together with some of our older students. And then we have inherited a Nightcrawler alumni as a amazing programming mentor, and he has expanded our programming team greatly. And they are looking at doing some amazing things that they learned down at Worlds last year with different sensors. They're building their own sensor for motion and everything. And so our build team is very excited about what they're planning on. And I can't remember who it was that had asked earlier about what happens when you get so many people on your build team that they're just sitting around. And one thing that I've learned is there's never enough students on the build team, because in your build team you have your mechanical, you have subsystems, you have electrical, and trying to find enough students to do all of the little things that need to be done. So that's my goal for the first couple of weeks of practice starting tomorrow, is to find out what they're interested in and get them into either the electrical team or the programming team or the CAD team, or where they actually want to work. And where they want to work this first week may not be where they're working come January, because they may find something that they like more, or that we realize that while they may think they're a great electrician, they're actually more of a gearbox builder, because they have the patience to sit and actually build those little things like that. So we kind of gently direct them into other areas, where we see that they have the skills to do that. So while we're interested in the kit bot, we're somewhat leaning toward opting out of it, because we'll still get the plans and everything, CAD drawings and everything on how to do it. We just won't get the actual pieces on how to do it. But if you saw our robot last year, you'll notice that we had an Everybot intake on it, because our students got stuck at a point right around week 4 where they could not come up with a manipulator. We had our entire robot built pretty much by the end of week 3, except we didn't have anything to do anything with on the field. We had no manipulator. We had an arm, but nothing on the end of it to actually do anything with the cones and cubes. So that's the other thing we're going to work on this fall, is teaching them how to prototype, how to build a claw or a intake. Because we had students last year. We had a student that built the most amazing claw out of wood. And it was an interlocking claw mechanism but it took him 2.5 weeks to build it. And we ended up not going with it. But so we're going to teach them how to quickly prototype things to get them to work, on how you, so you can speed your way through the build season and not get hung up on design and trying to build your first one like it's going to look at the very end.
As a follow-up question, David, how are you planning on teaching these prototyping skills? Is it like are you planning on doing like sort of a mini challenge, or is it something else?
We're going to pull game pieces from games that these students have never played before. So we're going to go back to melt crates and other things, and like, okay, you need to come up with something by the end of this week to be able to lift this melt crate or this frisbee or something, and and manipulate it, and kind of teach them. Okay, and we've got some of our old past prototypes like that are some of the ugliest looking things you've ever seen in your life, but they work. So we're going to show them these crude prototypes from the past, and say, okay, you don't have to build the finished product on your first attempt. Let's just get close. Let's grab some wood screws, plywood, plexiglass, duct tape, rubber bands, whatever we need, and we're going to build a prototype on how to take this milk crate, lift it up, turn it, lift it, whatever we need to do, um, and and come up with something quickly on how to do that. And but by using past game pieces that none of them have ever used before, they don't have the idea of, okay, we're going to use a 9-inch round ball, so this is what we did last time. They're going to actually have to go and look back through past games and say, okay, this is what Green Machine did that year, or this is what Nightcrawler did that year. This kind of worked. Let's see if we can build something similar to that quickly and crudely so that we know it works.
That is how my team often goes through and learns and prototypes their pieces when a game is released. They'll go through past seasons and look at how other teams manipulated similar game pieces to help them in that process. So that's a great idea.
Yeah.
We're getting close to 8:30. There was one thing that I wanted to bring up that Nightcrawler's discussed, and I don't know if Lexi's still in the call or not, but maybe she can share more about this. But it was inspired by, I think it was No Mythic, and it was probably something might have been out of a captain's conversation on your captain's channel you have, or it could have been from a call last year. But we wanted to put a more emphasis early in the season on doing more social stuff. So we've decided we're going to try to do a game night every now and again, or try to mix in a 30-minute game of some type during a regular 3-hour meeting in the fall. I'm curious to know if anyone is doing anything to try to do more team building bonding. One of our students on Nightcrawler used the phrase, I want to make sure everyone has a friend for competition season. And I thought that was really smart. And so I'm curious if anyone else is doing anything that's more building kind of structure around more social stuff on their team this fall.
Yeah, something that Ultraviolet's been doing for a year and a half now. When it's nice out, we go sailing. We had a member that was able to check out a boat once in a while. We have mentors who are part of like the sailing center near us, and so one time we got 12 people on a boat and raced. We lost horribly, but it was really fun, and that was pretty much our entire team. And then during the winter, we go sledding as a team. Organized usually about an hour before. And then what sledding means, we go down twice and then we go get ice cream and talk about robots. So that's been really great for building our team. Yeah.
We have
something-
Yoji. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Something 3926 did last year, and a lot of other teams do, is we do a team retreat in the fall. And that is, we come to school on a Saturday, and a lot of it's just hanging out, getting to know each other, setting goals for the season, and we try and mix and match people who we know usually don't hang out with each other on the team. So that, let's say there's one person from operations who never talks to another person from build, right? We'll put them in a group for something so that they end up talking to each other and get to know each other. And then we try and mix and match freshmen with and sophomores with juniors and seniors so that there's older people on the team for the younger people who like they know and can go to, like if they have question on something, there's someone that they know who they're not scared to ask questions to, and that seemed to help team cohesiveness a lot last year.
We have Yoji coming up in October, and he's going to do the core values workshop for our students. They've never done it before, and I've heard great things about that. And then 2 years ago, we kind of started doing kind of a mental health check-in night away from the robotics room, where students could get together and talk about what's going on, just kind of a time away from the robotics room. Because if you're in the robotics room, I got to go do this. I got to, that gearbox didn't get built, or I got to do this social media post, or I've got to work on this T-shirt design. So we started doing a night away from the robotics room. We do it periodically throughout the fall as we're going through, and then just a time that they can actually get to talk. We sit and play games. We talk. We watch movies. We've done a lot of other activities that are just sometimes robotics related. One time we got together and we watched the More Than Robots video on Disney Plus. But usually it's something that has nothing to do with robotics. We may start to talk about robotics and something that they think is going wrong, or that there's an issue that has come up where they think it needs to be addressed so that it doesn't get out of hand. If there's a personality conflict between students, or if a mentor is doing something more than what they should be doing, if they're spending more time working on the robot than they should, it's a way for some of those issues to get addressed in a non-confrontational, non-threatening way.
One thing that we've done is the kids seem to like it. We haven't done it for a while, but is the keep talking and nobody explodes deal. But it gets some communication going back and forth, and it gets them talking, and that's good because that's what they're going to need at competitions. Probably try to fire that back up. We haven't met this year. Tuesday is going to be our first meeting. I just want to throw one plug in before we sign off. There's the Minnesota Technology and Engineering MTEA conference that's going to be happening at the end of the month down in St. Cloud, and they've partnered with the Minnesota Robotics Coaches Association, and there's going to be some robotics seminars there that are specifically geared towards FRC. Normally it's just kind of a technology education teachers conference, but if mentors want to go, I'll put the link in the chat so you can sign up and check it out. But it could be interesting for some folks.
And I believe FUM is covering, if your school doesn't cover your fee to attend, I think FUM has grants to cover your admission fee for that. Is that right, Jesse?
I'm not sure if it's FUM, but I know Nicole is covering it. I'm not sure where she's getting her funding
Oh,
from,
yes.
but
Yeah, right. Nicole.
Is that for new teachers, maybe, or new coaches?
I think it might be for anybody, any robotic. I don't know the answer to that. I thought it was for any robotics coach, but maybe it's just for new ones. I'm not sure.
I think they're kind of leaning towards new ones, but I think depending on how much money she has and how many people request, she could be persuaded to use up her allotment. And if you're a student that's off at college, you can sign up for that conference for free, and you could attend as well. So I'll throw that in the chat quick.
Does anybody have any final thoughts about gearing up for the year before we sign off tonight? Anything else somebody wanted to throw out, like similar to my social comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something that Nomothic does for sort of like social stuff on the team. And that's that every night we have meals provided by the team. And one of the things that we tried last year was what we call unicorn families. And so that's where we sort of have a type of like almost like assigned tables with like people from all the different sub teams that people are able to interact with each other that they wouldn't normally react with in like on the team. And so that was really cool there. Oh, and then another thing that I wanted to bring up was sort of like more sort of interacting between multiple teams. But last year, Nomothic had a movie night where we watched Goodnight Oppie, and we invited some teams from our area, which was a lot of fun.
Excellent. All right. So I'm going to give another plug for what we are hoping to do with this channel going forward for the rest of the years, to have other teams volunteer to host a conversation and keep the conversation rolling all night, or to present a topic. Lexi posted the link earlier tonight to sign up for a week to give a presentation or to host a conversation topic. So you can scroll back in the messages and see that. It'll also be in all of the future emails that go out on the mailing list to sign up to get notification on the new events. With that said, I know it's sort of on the spot. Does anybody here want to volunteer to host the topic next week?
I think we should talk about how to make a perfect paper airplane in case we have to do it too. Did anybody watch the FTC?
3926
get
is
over.
Oh,
looking
yes.
into it
airplane.
because we're mentoring and starting up an FTC team in our school.
I
and
was
we're like,
trying to figure out where in the world that was coming from, but yes, the FTC kickoff. I did see that today.
Yep, there's so many ways to get points in the FTC game, so that's really going to be fun.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be really scary for our rookie team to figure out what we want to do. Especially because there's just, I mean, the game pieces look pretty tricky too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
we'll have two rookie teams. Our team always struggles. We don't have high schoolers except for two mentors. Ours is always up to 8th grade because we have the FRC team, and so the high schoolers slide onto that. So the challenge that Cambridge always has with FTC is that they're always rookies. They're always 7th and 8th graders because that's when it starts in Cambridge.
Yep, ours is
So,
gonna be 5th through 8th, which is gonna be
yeah, so maybe find a team because North Branch always gets a field by us, and Cambridge, we always get a half a field. And so that won't be different. The FTC team will have a half a field, so that helps. And then just like your FRC team, you're gonna want to get extra game pieces for them to manipulate because they are smaller. So that'll be
break them, lose them.
they'll break them. Yeah, so that'll be, and then get a couple colors because they'll need that too. So
Stupid
it'll
purple
be-
cubes.
you're gonna have a good time. It looks fun. But the paper airplane thing is crazy.
Yeah, that definitely is unique. Okay, anyone. So anybody want to take next week? Otherwise, we're just gonna have to make something up. And I don't know what it's gonna be. If no one has volunteered by Wednesday or Thursday, I guess we'll have to come up with something. But I would really like to see everybody here. I mean, all of you have been such great contributors to this channel for the last, since January last year. I'd love to have you guys all take a topic and lead the conversation if you're comfortable doing that.
What about, is my mic on?
Yep.
What about maybe starting, I know that we have a Sign Up Genius out there now, but what about a Google Doc with some ideas that every team can put on? Like we can all contribute to some ideas, and then as ideas get put on there, we might find one that is a match for us to maybe lead or bring our students into lead.
On the sign up form that everybody fills out when they want to join the mailing list to get this call, which there are 90 people or 93 people. Part of that is, what do you want to hear roundtables about? Maybe what I should do is go through that list as a starter to say, here's what people said they wanted to hear about on the roundtables. And then someone might say, oh, we know all about that. Let us do the presentation. Who's on here from Green Machine? Somebody's on here from Green Machine.
Hi, Kaylee. Hello.
Hi, Kaylee. Would you be willing to do a core values thing with Yoji, maybe?
Yeah, that it might take a little bit to like organize because Yoji is a very busy man and he just finished
Yeah.
traveling. But I can
Yep.
bring it up at our next captain's meeting. Sure.
Because I feel like that would be super beneficial, and I know that you guys have done a lot of that. We went through that whole process, and we use our core values in pretty much everything we talk about. We talk about it at meetings. We talk about it at every presentation we do. I was at our info night. It's part of our chairman's and our dean's list. It's in our essays. It's been super kind of valuable to who we are, and so I feel like that would be a great conversation. But I understand that maybe you can't pull that off for next week.
Oh yeah, definitely
Right.
not next week, but I can look into seeing if it can like happen within the next month or something.
Okay, yeah, I'll put you on the schedule for next week. That's awesome. Thanks. No, I'm joking. All right, I'll do this. You guys can fill out that form. If there's no slots on that form by the middle of the week this week, then Lexi and I will put our heads together and we'll come up with something. But please sign up to host a topic or give a presentation. We really appreciate it.
I think refreshing
All
our
right.
memory would be good on what people wanted to see. That might
Yeah,
spark
I'll
some interest.
I'll send out when I send out the next email. I'll try to go through and I'll compile what everybody said, and then try to put that list together. Because if that's on the list and you guys have experience with something on that list, that'd be a great way for you to just jump in and say, "Oh yeah, we can talk all about this thing." That'd be great.
Yep.
All right. Thanks everyone. Had a great time. I'm glad to be back.
Nice.
See you
Have a
next
good
week.
Sunday. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
That's it for this week's FRC Roundtable. Join us live all season long, every Sunday night. Visit the website at team2052.com/roundtable to sign up for weekly invites. In the meantime, keep building, keep learning, and we'll see you next week.